Alright, we left off at the present value of cash flows. This is video 3 in the Should We Refinance program for the Joneses. Alright, looking at this, equals value times present value factor. Enter. And we'll go ahead and drag this to all the spots. We're going to make it accounting format. And that's what she wrote. Beautiful. Now we have the present value of the cash flows. Wonderful. Excellent. It's fantastic. So, should we go ahead and do this? Well, net present value. Net present value. And then IRR. And then title will be three-year decision making and I'm gonna go ahead and add a simple heading title. Go ahead. Make these green filling, white text, and box around it all. And I really think a orange background, make the text a little bit lighter. You know what? We'll make the text even darker. 3-year decision making point. So net present value equals the sum basically from those 3 years. Of course, actually I have to do a sum. And there is a positive net present value. And the IRR calculation, simply, of course, need to type in IRR. And we get 10%, show a few more decimals. So, here's an interesting situation we have here. Because the internal rate of return is 9.743%. Alright, so make sure we get this border here. And it should be, of course, a thick border. One of the easiest ways to do that is to, again, just reapply the thick border instead of just going to the individual border section. Now, the IRR, it should be 10%. Honestly, the IRR can sometimes underestimate the return value. So if the net present value is greater than 0, then typically if your required rate of return is correct, you should just go ahead and say invest. And if you do have a case of, well, we're going to move in 3 years and we want to be able to make an investment that's worthwhile now, and if we don't want to lose money in 3 years, then this would be a worthwhile investment. You will make the return you're looking for. And if you end up staying longer, you're just going to save even more and more money. Worst come to worst, you stay paying the same amount every period, but you choose to apply that directly towards principal and then you're going to be able to save even more money and make even more money when you sell your house. There's all sorts of benefits. So at the end of the day, under the net present value rule of if net present value is greater than or equal to 0, invest, you should invest. Under the IRR rule of requiring at least 10%, you should not invest. In the long run, it comes down to, I would invest in today's economy. A 10% return is pretty good. You know, that's pretty excellent. In fact, I have a few values here. These are just a little bit of food for thought for me. This isn't a bad time to add some sort of large heading. We'll go ahead and bold this. Make it size 22. And I'm just going to bring it right on over. And review. And now it comes down to just a little bit of formatting. Spell check. Origination. Appraisal. Yes. And it's just a really good idea. Now there were a few things, such as the payments that were done or the cumulative principal, where I chose 0. You could go ahead and use a reference and reference it and then have everything you have for all of your loans and everything done so that you're making all the payments at the end of your period, which is the default 0. Some things require you to put in a type, some things don't. But if it doesn't require it, then it defaults to 0 end of the period. Of course, you could go and set a box here, type of loan, payment, end or beginning, and then, you know, fill it out, simple enough, 0, and you could do a key, beginning, you know, all that good stuff. And you've seen me reference cells, so obviously that's not a huge deal. Going through it, we'll do a page layout once, and actually just do a simple print preview. It's always one of the simplest, most easy ways to do things. Look at the next page, and we can see things got cut off a little bit, but if we do a little bit of a page setup, 2 pages tall, okay, and well, we got everything on one page, and that looks pretty neat. In fact, I'd say that looks pretty good. You know, you can actually do a print area, set print area, and if you want, you can go ahead and set your page breaks if you'd like. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but a lot of times I just go ahead, do the print preview, set it to 1 page. If it really becomes an issue, you can go to View, Page Break Preview, and this just tells you that you can adjust those. Of course, I selected it so everything fits on one page, so it doesn't really become an option for me to adjust those breaks. And then if I go to page setup, I do adjust to 100%. I could choose landscape, and I'll close the print preview once, go back to it, and it actually just decided to completely clear on me. So in that case, you do this simple enough. Go back to portrait, and I see it's because we're in the page break view. But we'll go to page layout once, and it'll show us this. And then when we do orientation, landscape, now you can see it. And it'll fit on 2 pages, and it'll be pretty nice. Can add a header, Jordan T. Graham, and it's not a bad looking document. You have the original loan information, the refinance loan information, the required rate of return. You get your cash flow for the original loan, cash flow for the refinance loan, and then profit from refinancing, present value of cash flows. You get your present value factor, and then your decision. And you can actually figure out, okay, exactly how much is being made in each individual year. But in truth, at the end of the day, you can do the simple math, and the present value gives you 2,700, 2,400. Well, does that add up to 6,000? And 6,000 some. I can just show you simple math quick. No, it doesn't. So you're going into the 3rd year, and it won't take the whole 3rd year, obviously. So if you really wanted to, you could figure it out by taking these 2, adding this value here, taking this value here, and doing a ratio divided by 2,000, and it'll tell you need 0.4625 part of the year. Ignore the negative, and that'll tell you how much of the year you actually need. And you can actually do this whole process by months. It's a relatively simple process, but it's a little bit overkill for what you really need to do. It might help you if you decide to sell a little bit early in that 3rd year, or you only decide to do 2.5 years. But at this point, you already see that 2.5 years is more than enough time. So as long as you don't plan on selling it earlier than then, you should have no problem. If you take that 0.46, multiply that times 12, do an equals sign, you have 5.52. So, again, about 6 months. So, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. I hope you got what you needed, and you can make the right investment choice.